Thank you so much for joining me on the way forward. My name is Eddie Francis, of course, and his name, the gentleman who is joining me right now, is Duane Cruse. Now, I call him Brother Duane Cruse because he belongs to the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha
That's right.
Fraternity Incorporated.
Come on.
But
Come on.
Duane and I were having a conversation one day, and in the course of this conversation, my brother here, he just made my heart sing because my man said we really got to do something about this colleges and for everybody conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Duane is an educator in our public schools, and so I really thought it was a great idea to bring him on to talk about a specific context of that
Right.
conversation. So, Duane, before we jump into that conversation,
hmm
talk about the kind of work that you do.
Yep. Of course, been in education now for going on 12 years. I serve as a STEM hub manager, where we get kids certified in different things like patient care tech, nursing assistant, medical assistant, welding, HVAC. We also have a robotics team, which you see behind me. So that's engineering. Um, Wide variety of things that we get our kids certified in. And we start them in their sophomore year, going into their senior year. There are some students who actually are graduating with an associate's degree or have graduated with an associate's degree by sending them to either Delgado or Nunez. So yeah, we have a wide variety of things that we do with our high school students.
So you mentioned sending them to Delgado or Nunez. We had the
hmm
pleasure of talking to the Chancellor of Nunez, Dr. Tina Tenney, here on the show. And
Shout out.
so
Yep.
let's start right there
hmm
because the first two types of institutions that you mentioned are 2-year institutions.
Correct.
The conversation that we had about college isn't for everybody or
hmm
people who say that,
hmm
you kind of push back on
Yes.
that narrative of college isn't for everybody. Now, some
hmm
people might say, well, yeah, I mean, if he works in a school, why would he push back? But it's probably not for reasons that people expect. Why do you push back on the narrative that college isn't for everybody?
Okay. So, I mean, let's be clear. So, I did attend a 4-year university, and where I got my bachelor's degree. When I got an education, it's like I remember growing up hearing individuals say, like, well, college isn't for everyone. You should try this. You should try that. Look into this. Look into that. And a lot of it had to do with like trading or STEM. And so when I got, you know, my wonderful job of being an educator, I was like, well, why are we saying it in that way?
Mhm.
Because if I want to be a barber, I have to go to school. If I want to be a truck driver, I have to go to school. And arguably, anything after 12th grade is higher education. That's
Yes.
college. So it's like, why are we saying college isn't for everyone, but then saying, but you can try something that's going to require you to go get some type of certification or whatever after 12th grade, right? And so we could just reframe that,
hmm
right? Because it has this negative kind of like implying like you may not be capable of a 4 year, but I mean, what's a 4 year compared to someone who can go for 2 years and make more than me, right? Which is
Yeah.
still education. You know what I mean? And so I think framing it saying something different, maybe like, what would you like to do after high school? And then what education indoor certifications can you get in order to get you there?
Mhm. That makes me think of a story my brother told me. My brother is a union electrician,
hmm
and he said that in preparing for his work, they had to take classes.
Yeah.
He said that the level of disappointment that some of the people in those classes had when they realized they had to go sit in a classroom and to learn about how electricity
Uh-huh.
behaves in order to do their jobs. And he said that his thing was looking at them and going, what did you think you were going to do? Did you think that they were just going
Exactly.
to turn you loose on, some light pole or some
Right.
building
Right.
without
Right.
learning how electricity actually behaves?
hmm
And I laughed because I said, they they thought that they were getting over. They thought that they were never having to sit in a classroom ever again. And yet here they are, probably the ones who were saying, yeah, I ain't going to college. And they
Exactly.
wound up getting an education beyond high school anyway to do the job.
You still had to go to school. Still
Mm-hmm.
had to go to school. And I also like, not too sure where like it kind of transitioned into this whole let's just focus on math, science, and this that, and the third, as it relates to like career. So like just, being a lawyer, just being a doctor or whatever. I don't know where it transitioned from the trade world, because my grandparents, right, my grandfather now who's 95 years old, right, he military, which that's training, right, that's
Yep.
after high school, that's training, right? And so he took that and worked for a company called Kaiser in New Orleans
Mm.
East back
Yeah.
in the day, right? Um, and so like he made really, really good money. To be honest, the house that he has right now on Rosemont Place in New Orleans East was the first house on that street. It was a 2-story house.
Oh,
He was
wow.
living as if like he was a millionaire today, the type of money that he was getting, right? Or whatnot. But yeah, and he always had cash. He always had money. He always had, or whatnot. And so we had individuals showing us how we should, chase our dreams, or if you need extra cash or money, get you a job like this, or whatnot, not just a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
But then I'm can assume maybe No Child Left Behind maybe transition that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Under George W. Bush, and then from there it just now you got kids going to the wayside. Retention rates are very high,
Mm.
or excuse me, are very low. With as relates to 4-year colleges, kids are going and dropping out and things like that because we did not tell them the full story. We gave them something very half baked,
Do
an
you
idea
think?
of a 4-year institution, and that's it.
Do you think that beyond that? Because I do have a thought about this, and I'm curious about what your thoughts are. Do you think that we focus way too much, or do you think we focus too much on elite institutions
Hmm.
when we start talking about students going to college?
I would say yes,
Yeah.
only from personal experience.
Yeah.
Um, Recently, I attended our graduating classes, events where they, said what institutions they were going to. Now, I know these kids personally, right? Because I spend more time with them than my own kids, 8 hours a day. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got a chance to get to know these seniors, and a lot of them chose institutions that were based off of name. I'm gonna be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I know you. You would have done better at a technical school. You would have done better here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's again access, resources, exposing them, letting them know, like, hey, well, what do you want to do? Well, actually, you want to be an electrician. Then why are we over here at a school that scores high in medical? Like, I don't like, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just we don't do a good job at beating them where they're at when it comes to like these types of decision making, you
Yeah.
know. So we have to do a better job at that, and that's
That,
my
but
goal.
that was a story when I was a senior, and I just remember, as a matter of fact, I'll pick on myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
I got a full ride to Loyola,
Okay.
which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you believe, Duane? I was actually embarrassed about it. I was actually embarrassed, and I'll tell you why. My friends were going to Howard,
Mm.
Stanford. They were going to Earlham College. One of my friends went to
Hmm.
Earlham, was a small liberal arts college in Indiana. They were going to all these other schools. I did have one friend who, in one of my classmates, who got a full ride to UNO. And, everybody's like, oh, well, you're staying here. You're going to stay in New Orleans. Oh, what's the matter with you? And of course, all the friends went to
Right.
Xavier and all these places. So I was in this race. I put myself in this race, a very unnecessary race. In my
Hmm.
18-year-old mind, I thought I had not accomplished anything because I
Mm.
didn't leave Louisiana and go to an elite institution.
Mm.
And years later, it didn't make sense to me until years later that, number one, I was ahead of the pack because I had a full ride to, forget where it was. I just had one.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, it didn't make sense to me at the time. the classmate who went to UNO, who people just like, oh, you're going to UNO. This dude did so well in his freaking career. He was somebody who got ahead of the pack, because he did
Yeah,
so
yeah.
well in his career with his UNO, with his little bitty UNO degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I always point to in these conversations that when we have these conversations about going to college, I agree that not everybody's cut out for a 4-year institution. But
Mm-hmm.
what frustrates me is when people don't pick out, number one, the affordable 4-year institutions, or they take a look at someone getting a full ride at an institution that doesn't have a sexy name,
Right.
and they completely ignore that full ride puts this person ahead because they're going to graduate with no debt,
Exactly.
theoretically. Right, and so
Right.
that's why I
Right.
was asking that question about, do you think when we have these conversations, the assumption is that we're looking too much at elite institutions? We want to push our kids to the Ivies, we want to push them to the
Mm-hmm.
elites, the top 100s and those types of schools. And so or we have kids who are like, oh, I'm going to go to that school because their football team is fire. I mean,
Right. Right.
you
Or
know
because they have a football team. Yeah.
Oh, because they have. I experienced that in Texas.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because they
or
have a
because
football
they
team.
have a football team.
Yeah. Agreed 100%. I think it goes back to, what I was saying about like meeting them where they are and asking them, what do you want to do after
Yeah,
high school? Not, okay, so what 4-year college are you going to choose?
yeah.
Or even to say what 2-year college, right? Like it's just simply saying, what do you want to do? And then after they respond, you go, okay, then what type of education, indoor certification, indoor apprentices, or whatever is going to help you get there? Because once you get down to the nitty gritty, the decision making becomes a little bit more easier, right? So if I know for a fact that whoever my mentor in that conversation, whether it be my counselor, teacher, whatnot, says like, okay, well, in order for you to reach this goal, you have to do this, this, and this. Now I have a frame, right? I have
Hmm.
a skeleton, if you will, that I can now build on from there. So I may not choose a school, a UL or LSU or those and the like, if I know for a fact that I looked up this job, this career, and I see that all I need is these 2 years in order to make 80K
Hmm.
starting off, in experience 80K, then why would I do 4 when I could do 2, which is much cheaper, right? Even looking at
Hmm.
which no disrespect, but even looking at nursing degrees,
Yeah,
right? And which is a really good career, but knowing for a fact that you can do 2 versus 4. Now, of course, if you have other plans, you want to be a nurse prac, all those other things, but that goes back again to what I said. You then have to have that conversation so you can help them navigate that, not just throw them out there to the wolves and have them try to figure out what's they're already at the institution.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
You mentioned the relationship that you have with Delgado Nunez. Talk about the kinds of opportunities you've seen students get just starting
hmm
with those two institutions.
for sure. Delgado, awesome job with their real estate programming over there. So I have
Mm.
2 students that I know for sure are now in real estate. They got their certifications while they were here. Finished with
So
their
they got
social
their
security
certifications in high school.
in high school.
Okay.
In high school, they were over 18 or 18 and older. And yep, finished. One child, she went straight into real estate. That's what she does now, and this is her thing, her baby, and she's growing it, and I'm so proud of her. Other young man, he took that and went to a 4-year college soon after. So he actually graduated next year as an accountant. Now, what he's going to do with that, I'm excited to see. But he
Yeah.
has his certification, so whether it be, I don't know, he's going to flip houses, whatever he's going to do.
Hmm.
I'm excited for him in that. As far as like Nunez, I have kids who've done the welding program. One student who now works for NASA, doing welding, right?
Wow.
And excuse me for what company he actually specifically works for. I can't think off the top of my head, but he's in New Orleans East, right? In the NASA building, like he had his hands on the last ship that was that Artemis 2.
Wow. And
Yep.
Artemis too. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. And I've learned that the technology is so like great now. All he has to do is just learn the program, right? And so, Nunez is hands on and all this great stuff. But now all he has to do is just learn the program and like It's almost as it's almost like he has to just read the manual and then press the button, and he's getting paid. I kind of question my own job, like, dang,
Right.
like, what I'm saying, am I in the right field, man? What's going, And so, yeah, but I'm proud of that guy, man. He's young,
Yeah.
no kids, but he can buy a house if you want at 20. You know
Wow.
what I mean? So, yeah, it's awesome.
And the thing about in interviewing Dr. Tinney from Nunez,
Hmm.
interviewing Chancellor Taylor from River
Yeah.
Parishes Community College, one of the things that I love about two-year colleges is how good they are at creating pathways for students who want to continue on to a four-year level.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
let's say the student who is doing welding right now, doing really well. Um, Doing welding. Don't know if they earned the associate or not. I'm thinking they might have earned the associate,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
they're doing a job, and then they decide, you know what, I want to go into management. All they have to do is go back to UNO, SUNO,
That's
or
it.
one of the other institutions, finish up those last two
Those two
years real
years.
quick. By
Yes.
the way, it's
Yeah.
going to fly
Uh-huh.
by. They can finish up with a management degree and then go back to their people and say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to climb the management ladder now. And
Agreed,
so
100%.
the setup is actually really, really good.
Hmm.
And so that's one of the things that I find really intriguing about this conversation about whether or not college is for everybody is the nuance that I think a lot of people miss in that conversation. How do students respond to you though when you have that conversation with them and say, "Hey, let's expand your thinking about college and what education after high school looks like"? How do they respond?
Um, I think I have a lot of dismantling to do
Oh, okay,
when I
okay.
when I say that to them. They're like, "What?"
So this
Like,
goes back to your commentary, or this goes back to your response about them wanting to go to the brand name institutions.
yes,
Okay,
yeah. And also, they've been told from other adults that college isn't for everyone. So when I
right.
say, "Hey, maybe that's not true," they're like, "Well, what are you talking about?" Right? And how I get them every single time, I ask them, "What do you want to do in life?" And like it's been a situation where a dude was like, all I'm gonna do is just, man, I'm just gonna go get my barber's license. And I was okay, well, what do you have to do to get that? You know? And so when we get to unpack, and he's like, oh, I said, yeah, you gotta go to school for that, dude. It's like, I'm saying, hey, college, yes, it is college.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, we have to stop stamping college isn't for everyone when we try to just get to the quick, I guess, explanation of education to a high schooler. Like,
Yeah.
stop doing that. Like, actually take your time, get to know the child, and then explain to them what does education look like? What is those certifications you get while being in school, right? What does a 4-year college degree look like, right? Let's talk experience, because no shade to anybody, I hope nobody don't think I'm trying to debunk like the whole 4-year college. I support it. I
Hmm.
I stand by it. It's needed, you know what I mean? Um, but again, like I stated earlier, I just think that it's half baked. It's just
Hmm.
we not saying the whole thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I don't want a high schooler to, look at this conversation as a one-stop shop.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's not a one-stop shop. It's more to it.
Hmm.
And we got to get down to the nitty-gritty so that we can have a full conversation of like what success looks like. It's not just a 4-year degree or plus.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like success is success, whatever you choose, as long as it's higher education.
What about parents? How do they respond?
I get a little pushback from the parents. I do. Um, Only because of lack of understanding. It's and then when I finally, like, I guess, like I explained, give it to them in the same way, like they start to come around. Like, oh, I get what you're saying and things like that. It's like, I'm not trying to tell your child not to go to college. That's never the words I said. It's just that I want them to understand that there's different pathways. We have to start using
Hmm.
that word, pathways to education and to
Hmm.
success. You know, so I haven't gotten too much, pushback to where it's like, aggressive or anything like that. It's just,
Yeah.
like I said, lack of understanding.
Yeah.
You know,
Interesting. Before I move on to the next one, because I'm interested
Mhm.
in what your colleagues think, one of the things that I really wondered too is how many people try to decide for their kids whether or not they're cut out for it. Because
Ooh-wee.
I've sat in front of parents and said, "Hey, listen, I know you want, I know you want Daryl to go to this particular type of school.
Mhm.
Did you ask him about another type?" And they're going, "Well,
Mhm.
no, I don't want him to go to that type of school." And I'm going, "But what do they want?" and
Right,
and the
right.
poor kid is sitting there, trying to advocate for themselves to go to a certain type of school, and the parents are the ones who are really putting the brakes on the whole process.
Mhm.
And that is what I find particularly frustrating, when parents have their minds made up already about what kind of school they, and it doesn't matter whether their parents who say, "No, go get a trade," or their parents who say,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, 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 you been, I need you to go to Notre Dame."
Right, right,
Whether
right,
we
right.
have the either way, I think that is one of my frustrations, is having the parents who try to decide for their kids where they're going to
Mhm.
go to
Mhm.
school. And sometimes the parents are dead on, but
Yeah.
other times they're parents who you're sitting there going, "Why don't you let them decide?
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah,
Why don't
for
you
real.
find out a little bit more about this kid to figure out why they want to go to this particular school so badly?"
Yeah. Also, sometimes, parents could be the detriment of their kid.
Yeah.
For example,
Not that we like to hear that, but
yeah,
yeah.
it's the truth, and I
Yeah.
have 4 kids, and I'm navigating through my parenting, making sure that I'm not like too much of a overkill when it comes to like trying to help them navigate with their educational experience. But for example, I know of one student last year. She graduated top 5 in the class, a very smart young lady. And she had gotten into like 13 universities, full rides.
Mhm.
Um, and it was one university that she was eyeing, and she would talk to me about it all the time. And it was out of the state of Louisiana. And I was excited for her. I was like, yeah, girl, let's do it. Like, make sure you send in that housing deposit, and, just,
Yeah.
giving her the ins and out of like going to a 4 year. And man, I mean, it was 3 weeks before graduation. She came to me and she was like, "Hey, Mr. Cruz, just to let you know, I'm gonna stay and go to Loyola." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, was that still the full ride?" I was like, "Yeah." She showed me, pulled up the email. It's still the full ride, just these fees here or there. I said, "Okay, that's fine. Well, what, change your mind?" She's like, "My mom don't really want me to go too far." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God."
Common
Now, and,
story.
and
Yeah.
again, Loyola is an awesome institution. It's just,
Yeah.
we had she had her mind set to go somewhere else. um and like I said, I was so happy for her, but I just think that sometimes as parents we have a hard time of letting our kids go and grow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we can hurt them in the long run sometimes. And so even to your point about like some adults may be spot on, like your child. So but that's a fine line
Yeah, it
between knowing
is.
your kid and like forcing them to do what you want.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah,
Well, that young lady who's at Loyola, send her my way, and then
I sure
I
will.
can give her, the Loyola appreciation talk. Wolfpack. Oh,
Gotcha,
all right.
gotcha.
So, um, what about your colleagues? How do they respond to these conversations,
We all on the
or at
same
least to
page.
your thoughts? I should ask.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we all sound alike when it comes to this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Hence the reason why we're in it. And all of them are industry based individuals. So I have a digital media teacher here. He's from industry. Uh, our health science teacher. She's a nurse slash paramedic slash. She has an EMT certification. She EKG, all that medical assistant. And she gets our kids certified in each one, except for EMT because you have to be 18, so that's like a special case. Um, our robotics instructor, industry as well. As you see the flags in the back, shout out. We got the 25. Yep,
2025.
2025
I'm seeing that, and
champions
2026.
and 2026. We up the regional champs. But yeah, um, you got to come by one day so I can show you the robot. The robot is pretty cool, bro.
Yeah, I would love
But
to
yeah,
see it. Yeah.
so we have individuals from the industry, and like I said, we have partners as well. But as far as everyone here, we all sound alike. We all have the same mission and vision,
Yeah.
which is to, give these kids a one up per graduation with certifications on their belt, right? I think it's a sweeter deal going into whether it be 4 year, 2 year, whatever, with you being already certified. Now it's just based on experience now, which we do offer that as well because we're rolling out this internship programming. This was our first year getting it started. We only had 6 kids in it, but this coming year we're trying to make it much bigger, where kids will be able to intern within their industry, so that we can cross that box. So they're not just like, oh, you're just inexperienced, we're not going to hire you out the gate out of high school, but kind of like help them out a little bit with that.
Duane, a little earlier, you started giving some thoughts about how we can productively have this conversation with our kids, with friends of
Hmm.
ours who are parents. What are additional thoughts that you have about how we can frame this conversation about education beyond high school,
Hmm.
so that folks look at the college experience as a whole, whether it's a 2 year, a 4 year, whether it is a barber license or whether it is electrician's license? How can we look at higher education as a whole and have a productive conversation?
For sure. Um, I guess I want to stamp what I said earlier about, um, you know, college isn't a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to make sure that we're intentional with our words and, explaining that there is 4 year and above, there is 2 year, there's certifications, there's apprenticeships, there's military, so on and so forth. Uh, and then, not just passing out the low hanging fruit, like, hey, fill out this application, do this, do that, but not telling them the whole story. So yeah, I think it's just being intentional with our words, because you remember when you're in high school, you get lost, right?
Yeah.
And you look to the adults to guide you. But if all you're doing is like go see the college counselor so you can get these packets to fill out these applications versus actually having real conversations, then we're not setting them up for success. And New
Yeah.
Orleans has a good job at that, at not setting our kids up for success, and always says, "Well, you didn't do well. You dropped out. Look at you." Well, like, what? Did you not set that kid up? Like,
This is a completely different interview, by the way.
like,
But you're
you
right.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, it's weird. I wouldn't say it's weird. I think it's the lack of, again, education on our end,
Hmm.
because those before us, that's what they were told, right? Where it's the whole like college isn't for everyone. You should do this if you can't hang. You know what I mean? And so that it gives this classism type of feel,
Yeah.
where we all did higher education. This person, okay, you're a truck driver, you went to school,
Hmm.
right? Because again, I think, you know, college itself is not so much about how you make the grade, it's about how you think, how that
Mm.
professor made you think, right?
Hmm.
Because that's the true meaning of like college and higher education. How did you think through this? How did you get it done, right? And you do the same thing with the barber certification. Do the same thing for those in the like. It's the same thing. So I think take out the negative idealism out of it, and let's just focus on success.
Duane Cruse, he is an educator in New Orleans. He is a STEM hub manager. Thank you so much for joining me on the way forward, my brother.
I highly appreciate you, my man.